Dear friends, hello everyone, I'm with you again, TheDeinekoArtem, Mastai48 and Sankel, and in today's video, we will have a review of the new Snapshot 25W41A, in which Nautiluses were added, and Spear was also added. And we will talk in detail about all the updates and additions in the Snapshot in this video. Of course, I took a little longer with this video, but still, if you haven't watched the reviews yet, then friends, welcome. Today is a full detailed review, so be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell if you haven't done so. Well, we move on to a full and detailed review of Snapshot. So, dear friends, the very first thing they added to us in this Snapshot was Nautiluses, in which we were promised to add Minecraft Live, and immediately after a couple of days this Snapshot came out, and the Nautiluses were successfully Nautilus has this unusual texture. They have these cool tentacles on the front, with such beautiful animation. As far as I know, before in Minecraft we didn't seem to have mobs that were so detailed. The texture and animation look pretty cool. And we also have a small, cool Nautilus that spawns at the bottom ocean and can spawn in any place where there is water. That is, these are lakes, oceans there, and so on in Minecraft, and they spawn at the bottom. Accordingly, they can swim, and they are simply harmless. That is, for example, if you swim next to this Nautilus, then they will not attack you. Only if you hit this Nautilus, then he can also hit you a little. You see, he's blowing away. There's literally half a heart here, that is. He's such a friendly mob, but I still don't advise you to attack him, because he actually has a lot of interesting functions, which I'll show you about now. But let's start from the very beginning, that he has this spawn egg. That is, this is such a cool egg, well, with the texture of a Nautilus oddly enough. And you can tame the Nautilus and, reproduce it with the help of, it turns out, puffer fish. Here I have a Nautilus, I take a puffer fish, and in this way I can simply tame him, is my Nautilus. And also, for example, if we find a second Nautilus, we can also tame it. And then you will have a small Nautilus. On Learned you can sit down for this, you will need a saddle like this. We just put the village on. And we can swim on Learned in survival mode, for example. And the most interesting thing is that we can calmly swim underwater, and we won't waste these bubbles, and we can calmly breathe underwater while sitting on the Nautilus. We get this kind of effect. Breathing has calmed down, and we can travel calmly. It takes quite a long time to move underwater on it. That is, it is not fast, well, it takes a long time. But the most interesting thing, again, I remind you, is that you do not waste bubbles, and you can calmly breathe underwater. You can also accelerate by simply pressing space, and just like, for example, on a horse, on other mobs that you can move on, you can accelerate, and it looks and works cool too. That is, just hold shift, and just like that we speed up. And also on these Nautils you can put on different armor, diamond there and so on. But we will talk about this in a little more detail at this point. I also want to tell you that we have now added zombie Nautiluses. These are the same Nautiluses, only they are already, well, zombies, and they often spawn with drowned people. That is, these are the drowned ones on them. For example, if you want to tame this Nautilus, you will need to kill the drowned man. You can also tame it with the help of fish fugu. And you can swim on them too. The spawn egg looks like this. We can just spawn it too. So that is, let's tame the puffer fish with the help of the puffer fish, great, and put on the saddle. We can also travel, swim, accelerate on it, only the texture changes. And in fact, I think it will simply be less common to come across this particular Nautilus, because it is with the drowned man. The most interesting thing is that there is no small zombie Nautilus. There is only a big one. And there is a large Nautilus with a drowned man, which, well, spawns in water naturally. And, by the way, what I haven't mentioned yet is that if the Nautilus is, for example, on land, he will die, suffocate. He must be in the water so as not to die. That is, for example, now I'll quickly tame this utility again. I'll put on the saddle. For example, I will jump out onto land with this Nautilus, and over time, he will suffocate. Therefore, friends, it's better to travel with him in the water. Well, now time will pass, and he will begin to die. Well, in short, I think it's clear. As for armor, you cannot craft armor for these laptops yet. But in general, we have copper armor, iron, gold, diamond, and also Z-Light armor. Well, by the way, our laptop just died, so it's written in our chat. And in fact, you can put this armor on both a zombie Nautilus and a regular Nautilus. Their texture also changes. This is such a very cool texture. And what's most interesting, you have... I didn't hear about it, but the armor for the Nautilus is being added to the mirror. The strangest thing is that there is no horse armor, but for some reason the armor for the Nautiluses was added at the dawn. This is strange. But again, while there are no crafts, you can find them in dungeons, which we, again, will discuss in a little more detail later. Well, in short, this is such a cool armor. Let's move on now to the spears. We have only 7 types of spears. Our first is a wooden stone spear. Copper, iron, gold, diamond, and netherite spear. Well, they are crafted as follows. You only need 2 sticks. And the item with which you will make these spears, well, for example, this is a diamond. Unfortunately, there is no workbench here. Well, let's take the crafting table and put it, for example, somewhere here. We take 2 sticks, put 1 object here, and get a spear. We can also put it on the other side, it doesn't matter. But if you put, for example, this object on the bottom, then the spear will not be painted. That is, the order from above is not important. Well, there is stone, gold, and so on. I think it's clear how to do this. Nazarite is also the same as you do, such as a Nazarite sword or Nazarite other tools. What's interesting with the spear, well, all the enchantments that you can put on a spear are sharpness, fire aspect, knockback, unbreaking, and repair. Lunge is a new enchantment we have called Lunge. We'll talk about it a little. We only have 2 levels of how we can attack with this spear. For example, you can just hit like a sword. Well, I just hit the horse. I hit with a sword, as well as with other objects and instruments. We can also attack players from a running start. We have a bridge here, a sankel. Let's check them now. This is a spear, but let me take, for example, a diamond spear. Here is the first option how we can attack. Just hit him as follows. That is how we hit there, for example. For example, using, again, a pickaxe, an axe, and so on. But if we take a running start, then we must hold down the right mouse button. And in this way we can hit from a running start, attack other players. Actually, if you hold the right mouse button on this spear for a long time, then your hand will get tired from the force, and your spear will become inactive like this. That is, here I am. I will attack. Of course I can attack, but it now becomes less HP for our opponents. And so that you get it back. This spear has returned to the combat position. Then you need to release the spear and pull it again. So someone can please attack me now. I'll go into survival mode. So I also install the keep inventory true gamma rule so that all our items are saved. Now I was attacked. Oh, must I? Try attacking me now with a netherite spear. I'll stand further away from here. Try it from a running start. Oh, he attacks, and he takes off. It turns out, 2.5 hearts. But again, it also depends on what distance you will attack the players from, or from what distance the players will attack you. That is, for example, if I'm close, then of course, I will shoot less HP per point. For example, with Elytra, then I think you can easily kill a player in armor there, with a right spear with 1 hit, if you are on Elytra. So, well, Mastaya wants to try it with a jump. Yes, somehow on me. Well, let's try it. Here I am standing, for example. Here my heart is now full. I am without armor. He has a Nazarite spear. I fall, and it turns out that he now takes off 5 hearts for me. But that's exactly when I jumped out of that tree. Well, that is, how high is this here? Well, approximately 7 blocks. Somehow this is how it works. Well, in short, the spear is actually an interesting weapon. Now let's try to hit him with an ordinary Nazarite spear, it turns out. Well, just hit it. Not without an attack, just take it and hit it. Well, somehow nothing just like that. Well, now he took off me, it turns out. 1.5 hearts. Well, in short, I think this is understandable. Well, again, if you attack with the elite, then there, and attack the players, then there, I think HP will be removed a lot, and it will be quite interesting and cool. Okay, we got that out of the way. Also with enchantments, we will also go into a little more detail with the new enchantment for the spear. But first, let's take a look at the spear on mobs. Yes, mobs can also have these spears. Well, first, let's heal ourselves a little. Here, I will take the golden apple. No, let me just take the golden carrot. So let's heal up a little. Well, now let's move on to Zombie can also have a spear. That is, both of us can now handle copies again. They can have both wooden and stone other spears, and we can force an ordinary zombie to be a zombie in the desert. Piglin, and also zombies. That is, this one here, which in short, well, is a hellish zombie. I forgot what it is called. But I think you understand. So, they too can spawn with a spear. Well, let me, for example, activate the zombie. That is, he can now attack me. Look, he's coming at me now, and he has this unusual cool animation when he's trying to attack me. He's going to hit me. He hit me. He's bound to move away, this zombie, and now he's going to try to attack me again. That is, you see, he takes a greater distance in order to take more HP away from me. But still, since he uses a stone spear, he doesn't take away a lot of my HP pie. But he's so harmless. If you stand closely behind him, he will not be able to do anything to you. That is, you see, I am close to the zombie. since he cannot take a long distance, and he cannot normally attack me. That's kind of how it works. For example, now I can calmly kill him with this spear, with 2 such blows from a short distance. Well, again, you can see how many enchantments I have here. And by the way, if you, for example, take this spear, pull it, put it in a combat position, then your speed decreases slightly, and now it is not by 1, but by 0.8700. Not a percentage, but units. Well, now let's also activate the piglin. And he can also attack us. This is his animation. He is faster. That is, he is not like a zombie. He tries to attack you faster, and he's somehow more active. He immediately attacks you, and he immediately wants to try to kill you. In short, we have Pigerin, just such a killer. That's kind of how it works. I think it's clear. So, now we can have a zombie horse appear in Minecraft if you survive somewhere, play, walk around. A zombie horse can easily appear. Cool. There's an ordinary zombie on the zombie horse, and he can also be with a spear. Naturally, but let's just put times a day for this purpose. Let's put a creative mod. And this is what the zombie horse spawn egg looks like. In short, it's a cool horse, but the biggest downside is that it naturally burns during, well, when, for example, it's daytime, it will burn. You need this horse so that it is in some room, or so that there are blocks above the horse so that it does not burn. Or you can only use this horse when, for example, it is night in Minecraft. You can tame this horse with the help of these red mushrooms. Just take the red mushrooms, and you can calmly tame them. But I can't take these mushrooms. Let's take it through the search like this. And for example, I have a horse. We just poke her like this. So well, this is our stationary horse. Let's just spawn a normal horse. Let's set time, set night again so that, well, our horse doesn't die. Here, times at night, we spawn, take, feed it mushrooms. Oddly enough, yes, and in fact, just like an ordinary horse, you can tame it. You will need mushrooms. Well, quite a lot, in fact. And then you can eat it. Put armor on it. And accordingly, you can ride it. Cool? Yeah. But, again, if there is a day, she will unfortunately die. Well, in principle, it's cool. In short, this is an interesting mob. New enchantment, Lunge. Thanks to this enchantment, we can also speed up, for example, when we use. In total, we have 3 levels of enchantment. It is the Lunge that is the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd levels. We can apply it to any spear. For example, here I have a diamond spear. I take Karu for the 3rd attack, and accordingly now when I go into survival mode, I can accelerate. So only now, unfortunately, I cannot do this. You accelerate, then you spend 100 units. Well, from 80 to 100 units you get strength of this weapon, so you see now it has accelerated like this. In short, it works somehow strangely. Well, in short, we can accelerate with the help of this Lunge, and your strength will be wasted very much. Further, we have a new death message when you are killed by a spear. Let me go specifically to Master Arsenko. Try to kill me with absolutely any spear. Here, well, it will take you a long time to kill, but try. Kill. 3 hearts, 4 knocked down. Well, in short, you see, after all, a stone spear is not very effective, but with 10 hits you can kill. What do we have written here? We have it written that TheDeinekoArtem was pierced by a spear from Senko. We have added a new message about the murder in this snapshot. New graphics settings. Let's go to settings, graphics settings, and here we now have. There is a new menu where we can install a preset. We can put a quick preset. We can put a fancy preset. Well, that is a detailed one. And we can also install a custom or very cool preset. That is, this is for those who have just such a, well, normal computer. Well, or a custom one, that is, you can customize the chunks there, the rendering, drawing clouds, and so on. And we also added a new one that turns out to be a slider. That is, not a slider, but a button here you can turn on or off. That is, you will have such a small type, not a stroke, but a darkening on the screen. In short, like left, right, top and bottom. You can turn it on or off. Well, such a slight darkening. Next, as for these spears. Spears can spawn in dungeons, for example, in mines, in various dungeons, in chests, and so on. Armor for Nautiluses can now only be found in underwater dungeons. That is, this is where, for example, drowned people spawn. I think it's clear. While there are no crafts, I don't know if armor will be added in the future. Crafting armor for Nautiluses? Let's see. In short, it is unknown yet. New stopwatch team. That is, these are like stopwatches for us. We can supply stopwatch and install, for example. Well, create a new stopwatch. For example, let us have this. This is the kind of stopwatch I just created. The most important thing is that the name should be from small characters. If you start from large ones, then you will not be able to create a stopwatch. Only from small characters. Now, to see how much time has passed since you created this stopwatch, that is, a stopwatch, you can write a query and you can select this stopwatch here accordingly. For example, here I just created TDA. The creation of this stopwatch took 25 seconds, and this way you can create stopwatches and see how much time has passed. This time is not tied to in-game time from the creation, for example, of your world or from the creation of your server, but only when you write this command. We had, it turns out, a 1-second world called TD1, which I created before filming. Almost 3,000 seconds have already passed since we created this stopwatch, piercing weapon, and also swing animation. In short, let's quickly take a closer look at these commands. Many thanks to Mastai for making these commands. In short, with the first attribute we can, this is how to put a sword in this position in Minecraft. This is how cool it looks. The command looks like this. We give out some kind of sword, but it only works on a sword. And we indicate in quotes that we are using the kinetic weapon attribute, and we can set the maximum range from 0 to 5. Forward movement and also delay. Well, the only plus is that we can put the weapon in this position now, just like it works with a spear. Then we can issue any item. Please note, any item, it can be like a diamond block, for example, a bedrock, and so on. And thanks to this command we can, it turns out, attack a large number of mobs. For example, I will now put a lot of residents to sleep. Summon Minecraft villager, all the towns. Well, there are 3 residents. And so, by hitting 1 resident, I can attack 3 residents at once. Works great. Well, we have +2 residents. Only they should be located. That is, on one of these. You see? I just hit 1, we hit 2. That is, they must be on the same level. That is, for example, 1 resident should stand here, another should stand here. For example, if 1 resident stands here and another there, then your damage will not be counted. I think this is clear. Well, this is how it works. Cool. That is, you see, if I hit like this, in this direction, then we won't cause any damage. You see, in short, I think this is understandable. And the command looks like this too. Minecraft Bedrock. That is, you give some kind of item, absolutely anyone. Maybe a kakurka, there again, a sword, and so on. Person Quapon, range there. You can specify max range. That is, this is our minimum range. Maximum range radius, in which we can hit, and accordingly, this is how it works. You see, 1, 2, 3. Cool. In short, our last attribute is swing animation. Now we can also take any object, and now, when we click on the left mouse button, then like this, or when we move, we have this animation. In short, we can raise our hand like this. That is, it works the same way as with a spear. Cool. In short, the command will be in the description, friends. You can use it. Basically, without any subscriptions, without any boosts, and I leave completely free links in the description. You can use them. Thank you, Mastai, for making such cool commands. Well, actually, that's the whole point of the snapshot, friends. Nothing new has been added. I think that at 42 and 43, they will add more changes that will concern Nautiluses, spears, and many other interesting things. Well, in short, let's see, friends. Therefore, if you like this snapshot, be sure to like it. Subscribe to my channel. Click on the bell if you haven't done so. I was with you, Artem Zadanya. Dunkel, Mastai 48. Thank you all for watching. Good luck, everyone. Bye-bye, everyone, friends.